This is the Hagmann and the Hagmann Report for today. It is Thursday, January 2nd, 2014. Yes, 2014. This is a live broadcast. I'm Doug Hagmann, the co-host, along with my son Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of some great radio programming, information that you will not hear otherwise, certainly not on the mainstream media within the framework of the established corporate media. You're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D. We look well beyond the headlines and bylines to bring you the news behind the news. For new listeners, just want to say hello to everyone checking in tonight. Of course, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 Eastern Time. You can find us. Our home base on the Internet is HomelandSecurityUS.com. We're also simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. There you can find us at the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. You got to spell it all out. The Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. 2 N's on Hagmann. Spell out the word and of course, .com. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Thank you for your belief in us as we enter really our third year of broadcasting, but our second year as independent broadcasters. And we find the independence so refreshing.
Our third year. First year is 2012, second year is 2013.
Okay, so that's right. Our third. This is okay. Thank you for correcting that, Joe. Welcome to the studio. You had we both had hellacious rides. We've got what 4 feet of snow?
17, I think. But when your ride consists of grabbing a few dogs and jumping on the back of your slide and
yeah, exactly.
Heading 16 blocks over to the studio, as to where my journey began. Barefoot uphill.
New York City,
Yeah, both ways, uphill,
both
barefoot.
Ways uphill, that's right.
No, it is. Mine's only a 7-mile drive, but I was talking with Mike and Brad from Full Spectrum Survival. They called me maybe 5 minutes after I left my house on the way to the studio, and I said, call back in 20 minutes. I'll be settled. I'll be up there and inside and ready to talk. Well, they called back in 20 minutes, and I still was about halfway here. We are getting a tremendous amount of snow, but the snow is not the worst of it, as the Weather Channel and local news stations are reporting. It is the winds and the wind chills, as they're calling for negative 10 to 20 below tonight here with the wind. And this is, they're saying here, there's even a headline on Drudge, exposure, in 15 minutes exposure, skin could freeze. That from a meteorologist.
Folks, the reason we brought this up tonight, think about what would happen if the lights went out, if the power went out, if we lost everything. Where you're at today, right now, wherever you might find yourself listening to this broadcast, what would you do if there was no power? And how would you heat your home?
Oh, heating the home, yeah. I was going to say,
power
for a day, maybe during the day, an 8-hour span wouldn't be too bad. But if you're talking about, we'll say you're 72 hours into not having power and you're in weather like this, and it's not just us that's going through this weather. There's a huge winter storm hitting the whole Northeast, and from Tennessee up to New York City and Boston, Chicago got hit pretty good. So yeah, you can imagine. We'll just say a fourth of the U.S., the northeastern. What could you do?
And here's another question I've got too, and I'm going to just toss this out to the listeners, and feel free to talk amongst yourselves about this, or even provide me with the information. All right, so let's say you live in a single-family home, and I don't know what our demographics say, whether people live in mobile homes or single-family homes, or if we have many in multi-family homes, condominiums. I'm sure it spans the spectrum. But we'll say if you live in a single-family home, would it be wise to have a whole house generator? And if so, if you can afford it, I guess is what I'm asking. And if so, how would you protect something like that from an EMP, or could you? That's question one. Question two, would it be best to have that powered by natural gas or by propane? Not realizing that propane would, you have to refill that. And if you are somewhere where there's natural gas, if something happened, if everything went out, would natural gas still be available? I guess I don't know the answer to that.
I would say no, because there has to be machines that regulate and control the flow of where the gas goes, how much gas goes. So,
is there a person, a human being down there at wherever the gas comes from?
I'm sure there's maintenance men, and I bet it's all mechanically run though. You have people who do serve as. It would be crucial to have humans there to maintain the machines, make sure that things aren't overflowing. I'm sure it's like a car, only a much more elaborate type setup where you have to have people there to make sure all functions, all cylinders are running properly. But I'm sure it's majority mechanically based, where with all the pipings, it's regulated and weighed and measured by the machine.
I'm looking at the chat here. It says no power, no natural gas.
Right.
Natural gas needs pumps.
Yes, and I guess I'm not too mechanically. I'm not able to speak mechanically too well, but my sister, your daughter, has the right idea. They have a wood-burning furnace at their house, and they go off that. They don't use anything else. They cut wood all the time and have that furnace there, and power goes out, you still got your heated home.
And I think,
and if we could figure out how to affordably
convert,
or maybe it wouldn't be too hard if you said, find an old wood-burning furnace and bring it down next to the regular furnace and find a way to just switch your ventilation from one to the other.
I'll bet you the answers are in Dare to Prepare.
I'm sure they are. And Stan will be with us tonight. His regular Tuesday appearance fell on the two shows that we took off this holiday season, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And he will be joining us tonight with an impromptu...
This is great.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, folks, if you don't mind, if you can go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, and there's a promo on the top story tonight on Hagmann and Hagmann, Stan Dale. If you can just share that on Facebook on your the social networking sites, that would be great. There have been people who we've gotten so many emails asking about Stan and to have Stan back on. So this is going to be great tonight. He's going to be talking about Fukushima, pandemics, and other matters of significance. By the way, I want to say hello to, once again, listeners, dedicated listeners, Jody, Jules from Mississippi. God bless you. Thanks for checking in. Mike, as well, from Iowa. John from Florida. Bruce from Long Island. Goodness, it's we understand the Long Island Expressway is closed. We've taken the LIE many, 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 many times. So, wow. Very interesting. Now, last night we had... Jim Garrow on. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that, take a listen. Rather interesting program. We're going to be putting it up, redoing the entire show summaries on our website. We had a situation where some of the MP3s, the downloads, for whatever reason, they were turned off from me. Joe had to fix it. Apparently, I must have hit some buttons or something. I don't know what I did, but now I'll be doing the upcoming shows as well as the show summaries. And under special investigative reports, or if you just simply, you might also be interested. We have all of our DHS Insider columns in one place, and that's accessible via the front page of our website, as well as under special investigative reports. If you just keep your mouse over that, DHS Insider postings, you'll find that. We're going to be populating this very heavily. We now have the time to do it, and that's that part of things. I wanted to talk to you folks about this real quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to Joe. One thing before we get into the news tonight, please, folks, keep in mind this Obama Well, it's really not just Obama, but it's the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP agreement. Folks, we've got to keep our eyes on this. This is a secret treaty. This is going to merge America much more deeply into the one world government, one world economic system. It's all being done in secret. They're negotiating these secret trade agreements, or a secret trade agreement. It involves 12 countries. China is now poking its nose in and wants to get involved. And they're all countries around the Pacific Rim, and including North America. And the negotiations, as you well know, as everyone well knows, they are so sensitive, so secret, that Obama is not even allowing members of Congress to see what they're talking about. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, some call it NAFTA on steroids, NAFTA of the Pacific, but it's much more than that. It's much more than a trade agreement. The treaty, it's got 29 chapters. Now, out of 29 chapters, Joe, only 5 have to do with actual trade. And they're calling this a trade treaty. So,
and we knew that they were keeping the contents of the contract hidden from Congress. We were going over this before the holiday season, how Congress,
that's right,
different congressmen, clips of them giving interviews, how they were not being shown what was in the agreements. It was being kept secret. It was a big, to do over not seeing what was in there and not knowing if they were going to see what's in there until the actual vote came. And we've seen this before. I mean, just look at how Obamacare was passed. You have to pass the bill to know what's in the bill. And I would urge any lawmakers or people who have influence on lawmaking decisions to urge these people not to pass this, not to put this into effect, but I'm afraid it's already a done deal.
Well,
like most things that are important that are...
And here's the scary part. Yes, I think you're right. But look, most people, most Americans, the average American, they don't understand what's going on. This treaty is going to fundamentally change our laws about internet freedom, even about health care. If you can, it's hard to even comprehend that with all that we're dealing with now. But the trading of certain financial instruments, copyright issues, food safety, environmental standards, civil liberties even, and much more. It's going to merge the United States well into this one world economic system. Yes, this is a conspiracy fact, not a conspiracy theory. Now, initially, 12 nations, they're a party to this treaty, and they are the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. Those are the 12. China, again, is expressing interest into this. Now, those nations I just mentioned, just those 12, represent over 40% of the total global GDP. Now, think about that. They're also asking nations, including the Philippines, Thailand, and Colombia, that they're courting them to join this treaty. Now, why doesn't Obama, and why doesn't the Obama regime, why don't the people behind this particular agenda, why don't they want us to know what's going on? First of all, it's going to change the internet, the way you and I operate off of the internet, the way everything you know, it's going to change that. The treaty will impose very strict internet copyright rules on the American people. It's going to ban all Buy American laws. It's going to give Wall Street banks much more freedom to trade derivatives. It's going to force more business out of our country. It contains so many things that Obama would be unable to get through Congress on his own. Now, I will say this too, Joe. This is just not from Obama. This also has to do, going back to Bush 1, George W., Clinton. I mean, this mindset, this philosophy, they're all globalists. And this is where people just fall off the tracks.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. The light bulb ban that's taken effect.
Oh, yeah, buy light bulbs, folks.
That was put into law by George Bush in 2007. And you'll see a lot of people say, Obama's doing this and that, and they'll throw that in there. But it's the agenda.
Well,
as you were saying.
Right, and if you're listening to this broadcast right now, certainly go to the store and buy up all the incandescent 65, 60, whatever
75, 60-watt light bulbs you can, because they are now outlawed from being made, or there's an agreement that they won't be made and won't be sold anymore. So everybody who likes to buy light bulbs for $1.29 a piece, or whatever the going rate is for a cheap light bulb, it's going to be about $10 to $15 more than that for a light bulb from here on out. So get them while you can.
Well, I'm not sure that much.
I don't know. From what I've seen, $25 for a light bulb.
Well, they've got those smaller, twisty things that don't fit any lamps. They frankly, I've got nothing good to say about them.
I guess I haven't paid that much attention, and don't go to this. When I do go to the hardware store, I've always avoided, I just buy the regular light bulbs. But my wife did. I don't remember exactly how this came about, but maybe when through signing up for some program or looking into energy saving methods, they did send us, the electric company sent us these light bulbs, a box of these new light bulbs, energy efficient light bulbs. We didn't have to pay anything for them, and like I said, I don't know what she was looking into, and they're nice, but
they're nice.
The lighting's different. These old light bulbs give off more heat than light, and then that's one of the big issues why they need to be replaced. And that could be true, but they still work.
Some farmers use the light bulbs in their chicken, I think chicken coops, or for heat. So but for Congress to tell us we can't buy these light bulbs anymore,
correct?
Come on.
And Watchman in the chat room says that if one breaks, it says to call hazmat team to clean it up.
It's a 7-step process to clean up.
Yeah, that's true in some cases. Some of those light bulbs actually do. You have to vacate your house for 2 days and
well, no, I wouldn't say that. You've got to clean up the mess and dampen the powder, whatever that mercury powder, laden powder is. But it's a mess. But this TPP, going back to that, folks, this is one of the most hideous and most important things to keep our eyes on. You've got really 600, I believe it is 600 corporations, perhaps, putting their 2 cents into 2 cents worth of information into this, the negotiations. But you have a very small number of corporations who are actually making the decisions. The secrecy behind the TPP, unprecedented. Now, Kurt Nimmo had reported on this sometime during the summer, late summer, early fall last year. He writes, since the beginning of the TPP negotiations, the process of drafting and negotiating the treaty's chapters has been shrouded in an unprecedented level of secrecy. Now, WikiLeaks, they released a chapter on, I believe it was the Internet copyright infringement here. I'll just read on here. Access to the drafts of the TPP chapters is shielded from the general public. Members of the U.S. Congress are only able to view selected portions of the treaty-related documents in highly restrictive conditions and under strict supervision. Let me tell you something. If I was a congressman up there, a lawmaker, if that was my job, and you're going to tell me I can't see a document, a treaty document, boy, I'll tell you what, you better bring on the Capitol Police, because I'm going to be one mad, angry son of a gun. It's been previously revealed that only 3 individuals in each TPP nation have access to the full text of the agreement. Now, what is that about? 3 people in the United States, 3 people in these countries, only 3. And how are they selected? While 600 trade advisors, lobbyists guarding the interests of large U.S. corporations such as Chevron, Halliburton, Monsanto, Walmart, are granted privileged access to crucial sections of the treaty text. Are you kidding me? Seriously, folks. We need to light a candle under the butts of these congressmen who allegedly represent us. Now, I understand the futility in that statement. However, what else do we do short of storming Capitol Hill? And I do have some information about some plans to in May about an initiative to do just that, which I'm checking out in terms of the legitimacy of what the plans are. But this TPP, this Trans-Pacific Partnership, Obama is seeking a trade promotion authority, which would give him the ability to sign the treaty before Congress even votes on it. Again, if I was a congressman person, yeah. I don't think I would be for very long. Now, normally, free trade agreements must be authorized by a majority of the House and Senate, usually in lengthy proceedings. The White House, however, in this instance, is seeking what is known as Trade Promotion Authority. And you've all heard about this. It would fast-track approval of the TPP, requiring Congress to vote on the likely lengthy trade agreement within 90 days and without any amendments. So I guess we don't need a legislative branch of the government anymore, do we? They've been they're a relic, like gold is. Yeah. The authority also allows Obama to sign the agreement before Congress even has a chance to vote on it, with lawmakers getting only a quick post facto vote. Now, that you talk about insidious. Essentially, Obama is trying to make a giant end run around Congress on dozens of different issues that are addressed by this treaty. Now, there are some members of Congress that are waking up to this. Like last year, a small group of Republicans and a small group of Democrats both sent Obama a letter condemning that free trade agreement. You've got people on both sides of the aisle getting a little bit irritated about this. And this shows that really there's only one party, and it's all progressive. It's all toward the globalist, communist type of mindset. But some of the people in Congress are saying, "Wait, you can't do this." But folks, you need to understand how dangerous this treaty is. One example, real quick, SOPA. Remember that? There was that huge backlash, public backlash, when the very strict internet copyright provisions of SOPA, when everyone found out about that. We talked about this, Joe, you and I did, on this very program. But now I
don't remember SOPA.
SOPA,
nope.
Acta, PIPA.
Nope.
No
such thing.
No such thing.
My head's back in the sand, and I am happier than ever.
Well, that's right. It's all an illusion, right? But SOPA is back with a vengeance. Most of the provisions that we objected to under SOPA, which is, if you recall, folks, SOPA, remember what that was? The Stop Online Piracy Act and its sister PIPA, PIPA, the Protect Intellectual Property Act. They would give federal government the ability to potentially shut down millions of websites. SOPA, the version being considered, that was being considered by the U.S. House, is the more dangerous of the two. But now it's coming back. It is absolutely coming back.
Didn't they pass parts of SOPA under the... Goodness, we looked at the bill, we read the bill.
Correct.
One of them was the data... I can't remember. I'll have to find it. Is the Data Recovery Act or the Data... I'll find it in my stack of papers. But we do have, what you talked about with the TPP. The economic future of America is already looking very bleak. The situation is bad. We know that the printing presses have been full blast for the last year, to say the least. At the very least, they've been printing $80 billion and putting these back into mortgage-backed securities, the derivatives, basically a huge casino that always is rigged to lose. And we are in a bubble bigger than any bubble we've seen before. And when I say bubble, I'm not talking about a housing bubble or a student loan bubble. I mean our dollar, our fiat currency is a bubble. Our money is a bubble, and it is going to pop and deflate.
It's a giant Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, and the difficulties and situations that we face, if not in 2014, then they will be here in the very near future. And I don't say that as with authority because I know when. I say that from looking at history and knowing, regardless of when, it is a must, because just like you can't, I mean, if you rob a bank and the police catch you, you're going to go to jail. It's just
unless your name's John Corzine.
Well, yes. This is a certainty. If you go 100 miles an hour, down 95, all the way from Florida, from Welcome to Florida sign to Miami, you're going to get pulled over if you stay at that 100 miles an hour. There's guaranteed a cop sitting somewhere on that highway.
It's just like where and when, right?
That's exactly right. Same thing with the deflation of our currency, and which will plunge us in. Look, we have this knockout game going on, and I almost uploaded an audio clip, but on this game and what it's doing to how people are conducting themselves. But Nathan Leal talked about that. And Paul McGuire mentioned the social, the morality of our country, and how there's been a social change, and the morality is so decayed that if we were to have even a Great Depression, like the 1920s Depression, it would throw us into a mass chaos, class warfare, rioting, martial law scenario, because people just don't know how to act anymore. People will kill each other over shoes today. I mean, this wasn't happening 100 years ago. When they had the Great Depression, you had some people that killed themselves because they lost their whole life savings, but they didn't grab their guns and go on shooting sprees and taking everything that they thought they deserved at that point, which is what our society, the majority of our society mindset is today. When you mix when you got a fire going, and it's a grease fire, and you put water on it, it's just going to get bigger. We have the biggest decline in our morality, with people behaving in ways that 10 years ago were so appalling, they'd be headlines for weeks. The cannibalism stories we've seen this last year in 2013, the knockout game, all these different things, the media fanning the flames with the racial situations like the George Zimmerman trial and so many other issues. Is it even going to take an economic collapse for us to go into a social free fall into self-destruction? Or could something less, drive us to that point? Because that's another not if, but when. And the direction we're going as a country, the direction that people are digressing or declining at spiritually and morally, to just complete bankruptcy and not caring about it, not seeing it or understanding it as being morally bankrupt, or not having a conscience, being a sociopath, whatever you want to call it, just being pure evil, thinking that's okay. And the Bible says there will be a time when men call good evil and evil good. We are seeing and living in these days. A couple of quick mention news pieces here on Obamacare that are important that we should get into. We're going to be getting into Fukushima today also. And before we do get into Obamacare, this is a story I wanted to hit on. We knew this was a law, I guess. But now, Constitution, exemption zone. We've talked about free speech zones. We've talked about this Constitution exemption zone. But it spans 100 miles inland of the U.S. border, says a judge. A federal judge has reaffirmed an Obama administration policy granting officials the authority to search Americans' laptops, citing a controversial premise that makes citizens within 100 miles of the border eligible for a police check. District Judge Edward Corman made his ruling in New York on Tuesday, more than 3 years after the American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit. The ACLU claimed since Americans put so much of their lives on computers, cell phones, and other devices, border officials should have reasonable suspicion before sifting through someone's personal files. Attorneys argued that searches conducted without reasonable suspicion are a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Not so, according to Judge Corman. In a decision Tuesday, he argued that an area 100 miles inland falls under border exemption. This is the term used by this judge, border exemption. If you're 100 miles inside of inland from a border of the United States, you're in a border exemption. He goes on to say laptops have only come into widespread use in the 21st century. Prior to that time, lawyers, photographers, and scholars managed to travel overseas and consult with clients, take photographs, conduct scholarly research. No one ever suggested the possibility of a border search that had a chilling effect on his or her First Amendment rights. While it is true that laptops make overseas work more convenient, the precaution plaintiffs may choose to mitigate an alleged harm associated with the remote possibility of a border search are simply among the many inconveniences associated with international travel. So in this judge's statement, he is associating a 100-mile Constitution exemption zone that stretches 100 miles into the U.S. from any border, as he's associating it with international travel in a, if this is written correctly, a horribly written paragraph that makes little to no sense because of its grammatical errors. But to continue, the federal government has long conducted searches on travelers entering and leaving the U.S., but Congress expanded the policy by creating the Department of Homeland Security and setting up at least 33 checkpoints inside the country where people are stopped and asked to prove their citizenship. The trouble is, the ACLU noted, that almost two-thirds of the population, 179.4 million people, live within the 100 miles of the U.S. border. They go on to list some cities like L.A., Miami, New York, Washington, Boston.
Yeah, have you noticed that this is where the bulk of the people live? Seriously,
yeah.
If you look at the
over half the population.
Exactly. And this is not by accident. This is by design. This is conditioning. This is a violation of every freedom that the Constitution provides us, the Bill of Rights, against unlawful search and seizure.
The Fourth Amendment says the following. It is the right of a people to be secure in their persons, their houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, going back to this judge's comments and the reasoning behind his ruling, laptops have only come into widespread use in the 21st century. We'll start with that first sentence there. Well, just because laptops are new doesn't mean that there has to be new laws made against how you go about gathering data from a person in their laptop that you wish to gather it from. In the Fourth Amendment, it states the right to the people to be secure in their persons, papers, effects, houses. It doesn't say laptops, nor does it have to say laptops. It says you, yourself, what you own, what you have on you, the house you live in, cannot be violated or no warrant will even be issued unless there's probable cause, which is supported by an oath or by evidence. And they have to be specific in what they're searching for, where they want to search, what they want to search for. This throws away this piece of law or ruling, which I don't remember what piece of an Obama law or executive order created this 100-mile border zone. But with the NDAA, with all the other unconstitutional laws,
I think that goes back to Bush. Even
it says the Obama administration policy.
Okay, I want to double check that, folks.
In the first paragraph, a U.S. federal judge reaffirmed an Obama administration policy granting officials the authority to search Americans' laptops, citing a controversial premise that makes citizens within 100 miles of the border eligible for a police check. Now, it goes back to the Department of Homeland Security.
Wait a second, Joe. That would also make your homes a subject. And
Correct.
If you live like we do. We live within 100 miles. And I'm sure the majority of people listening to this in the United States are live within 100 miles of the international border. So by this ruling, then let me just ask this question, and folks, and feel free to talk amongst yourselves about this. Would this not extend to your house, your car, your shed in your backyard? Yeah,
you would think so, but what they are saying in this article, and this is something we do have to look into, they're making it seem like it's only during traffic stops by border patrol checkpoints. Either way, under the Department of Homeland Security, it says that this was set up, and they set up 33 checkpoints. 6,500 people have had their laptops searched and seized and searched between 2008 and 2010.
This would not,
and it doesn't say where they were originated from. Their,
but I think what we need to do, and ladies and gentlemen, you can certainly advise us on this. Should we not be able to extend to our listeners some competent, reasonable legal advice? Have an attorney, a constitutional lawyer, tell us how to handle a request such as this without. No, I mean, certainly you can say no, it's unconstitutional, deny access to different things, but I guess what I'm looking for is that magic. Well, not even magic, but that reasonable instruction. What should we do when confronted with this type of demand? So I think what we'll do is we'll find a constitutional attorney who's very well versed in this, has got a track record, and have that constitutional attorney on our program to advise us what to do. Because I think we need to stick together on this, on everything. But we can't be, as I say often, we can't be idiotic about it. We can't be idiots in our approach to this. To me, it's kind of like, when you go out in public, and right or wrong, for better or for worse, when you're dressed up, let's say you're a man and you're wearing a suit and tie, shirt and tie, and a suit coat, and you walk into walk into somewhere. Now, you're going to be looked upon a little bit differently than if you were in ripped jeans and a T-shirt. I'm not saying that's correct. That perception is correct. But do you know what I mean? I mean, there's a difference in perception by those who see that person, by those who see you walk in, and I think this is the same. This is the same way as well. When you encounter a situation like this, if you're a real jerk, and if you look like a thug, and I'm sorry about this because it should really have no bearing, but it's all about perception and approach to prevail, because you don't want to get hung up in the system unnecessarily, I guess, is what that's what I'm going for. By the way, let me just interrupt this and say thank you, TJ. On our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com, that's HomelandSecurityUS.com on our website, just put up Secret Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, TPP, the opening paragraph and the link to the WikiLeaks document. Thank you, TJ, for that. It's up on HomelandSecurityUS.com. But, okay, getting back to what we said, what you said, though, Joe, this is a gross violation of our rights, our civil rights, and I think we need to have a standard approach that we can offer our listeners how to handle this. Thoughts?
Yeah, there are things we can do. Know your rights. Decline to be illegally searched no matter where you find yourself being searched. Yes, you might end up in jail. And I'm not...
But I think it's the approach that we have to take.
Right. I mean, you have to be polite. You have to be respectful. And I'm not advocating anybody to do this, but if it were me, even though having nothing on me to hide, I would not submit to a search unless there was for a random border patrol checkpoint, if I were to come across it, I would say no to a search. And I would state my rights. I would do it respectfully by stating my rights.
Correct.
And if I went to jail over it, then I would go to jail over it. And that would be my choice.
And that's the thing I think we have to commit ourselves to. I think we've got to commit ourselves to a plan of action. And and I would urge everybody to have, if you travel a lot by car, and even if you don't, but if you do travel a lot by car, and as investigators we have this as well, we have dashboard cameras. Now, you'll notice in some, and I do want to make... Also
bail money in a coffee can where your significant other can grab it.
Well,
convenient.
Exactly. You know, since I don't have a cell phone, I had disappeared for a little bit of time this morning, and left the house pretty early. I had to run some errands, and she said, "Man, I wish you had a cell phone. I was trying to get a hold of you, or wanted to get a hold of you, and had no way to do so." But anyway, yes, bail money. And I suppose some sort of method of communication, perhaps. But where was I going with this now? It doesn't really. It doesn't matter.
You were running errands.
Yeah, but I was going to make a point. I'm sorry. Senior moment. There we go. By the way, any questions for Stan Deo tonight? We have a very special, unique email. It comes directly into our studio. It's lightning fast. Any questions for Stan Deo tonight? If you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on the story link tonight on the Hagmann and Hagmann Stan Deo. Click on the story link, and inside the article, it gives you just a one-click approach to sending an email to the studio. It's actually studio@HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's the email address, but you just simply click on that within the article, and that gets the email to us right away so we can ask Stan the questions, your questions.
Studio@HomelandSecurityUS.com.
Right. Correct.
Is the email. And
the other thing, too, I want to mention, kind of housekeeping, whatever. We did, probably a half hour before airtime, we did receive a package by private courier. We have the books from Paul McGuire. So first thing tomorrow, we will send via USPS priority mail the 10 books out to the 10 winners. Folks, if you're listening to this broadcast and we announced your name as a winner, now I didn't put them up on the website. I did not put the winners up on the website. But if we announced your names as the winners, and you haven't done so already, please send us your mailing address.
Yeah, and we'll be sending out emails.
If not tonight, first thing in the morning to let you know.
Yeah.
But for all the people that we do have the addresses on, they'll be going out tomorrow without fail. And I just want to thank Paul McGuire very much for his gift. I mean, 10 books for 10 winners, that's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
So they'll be going out tomorrow. But anyway.
Moving on here, and we're going to take a break in about 12 minutes and have Stan come on right at the top of the hour. U.S. Judge, Obama Homeland Security aiding criminal conspiracies. The Obama administration's Department of Homeland Security is brazenly violating U.S. law and participating in criminal conspiracies to smuggle illegal immigrants into the United States. U.S. District Judge Andrew Hagmann said in a December ruling. He noted also that schemes were helping to fund Mexican drug cartels and jeopardizing the lives of children. According to Hagmann, the apparent Obama administration policies in question are part of a trend and represent a dangerous course of action, costing taxpayers huge sums while enriching criminal syndicates. The stinging criticism and exposure of Obama's Homeland Security apparatus and its lawless action focused on a wide array of problems with the controversial human trafficking. Along with other concerns, the judge said the administration was breaking the law, encouraging and rewarding criminals who continue to violate the law, and ensuring a steady stream of funds for dangerous Mexican drug cartels involved in human smuggling, endangering the lives of children, and much more. The court, Hagmann wrote, is quite concerned with the apparent policy of the Department of Homeland Security's completing mission of individuals who are violating the border security of the United States. The judge's comments have attracted headlines across the nation, focused on one case in particular, the subject of the order. The criminal conspiracy in question involved an illegal immigrant in the U.S. paying human smugglers to bring her 10-year-old child across the border. The hired trafficker was arrested during the operation. Despite the setback, the goal of the conspiracy was successfully completed thanks to the actions of the United States government, the judge wrote, noting that the child was delivered to her mother in Virginia by Homeland Security. The administration did not arrest, prosecute, or deport the mother despite the crimes, the judge added. The DHS policy is a dangerous course of action, echoing criticism from border groups and critics of the administration's policies. The DHS, instead of enforcing border security laws, actually assisted the criminal conspiracy in achieving its illegal goals. In summary, instead of enforcing the laws of the United States, the government took direct steps to help individuals who violated it. A private citizen would and should be prosecuted for this conduct. This is an interesting ruling and write-up from the New American on this ruling. I'll post in the chat room.
I've got it here in front of me. By the way, did you know that Hamas is funded by slave and organ trade? You know, when I first heard about the slave trade, the human trafficking, human smuggling, I thought, man, no, come on, really? I mean, we know that at some level it exists, but now, folks, you remember the stories where somebody gets a guy at the bar, sitting at the bar, and all of a sudden winds up in the bathtub missing a kidney and sitting in a bathtub of ice.
Yeah.
Okay, remember those stories? Well, now, as it turns out, Hamas is being funded by slave and organ trade, Sudan, East African flesh peddlers. Well, come to find out, they're aligned with Hamas terrorists, Islamic terrorists, Muslim terrorists. Yes, Muslim terrorists. So CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, listening to this right now, recording this broadcast. What say you about this? That the fact that they're actually ransoming captives and engaging in the trade of human organs to buy weapons for their Muslim jihad. Can you believe this? By the way, if you want to know the source on this, is it some right-wing conspiracy nut kook? No. You know where this comes from? CNN. The wages of this shameful trade, by the way, are $35 million per year. It's a very significant, piece called Human Trafficking in the Sinai. To fight it, we need to know it. That's you can search for that. But every refugee kidnapped by the traffickers means roughly $20,000 into the coffers of these terrorists. And believe it or not, the Islamic component to this is unbelievable.
I was watching or listening to BBC World News, and they were explaining how in England there's the policy that they're going to implement where they're not going to negotiate with kidnappers, and that the money that is made from kidnapping, we'll say Al-Qaeda kidnapping European people, is in the millions and hundreds of millions of dollars each year, and it goes towards financing terrorism. This is explained on this BBC segment I listened to, and that England was drafting a policy to not pay kidnappers ransoms anymore because of where the money was going. Moving along, And human trafficking is a huge issue. We should devote more time into exposing that, because...
And it's the other thing, too. There is, and when we attended the conference with Russ Dizdar in Canton, Ohio, one of the off-stage discussions we had was about human trafficking and how the Satanism. Let me just say that there's a huge problem. Children, homeless people, are victims, and you might believe this or not believe it. It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me. But the fact is, our government, certain criminal aspects of our government, are complicit. Do you know that the FBI does not keep certain statistics with reference to certain statistics that relate to missing children or missing children? Or even Satanist type murders, ritualistic murders, satanic ritual murders. They don't keep stats on that. It's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Quick clip here. I'm going to play on Obamacare. This is from Ron Paul today, as he's interviewed by Fox News. Cancellations outpace enrollments as Obamacare makes its debut.
The healthcare law officially kicking in, but the numbers still not adding up. That's because more than 6 million people have lost their healthcare plans, compared to just over 2 million that have actually been able to enroll in Obamacare. Former Texas Congressman Dr. Ron Paul says this is what you get when the government gets involved. Dr. Paul, welcome back to the program. Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you, Stuart. Good to be with you.
Does this Obamacare fiasco spell the end of activist government, you think?
I wish, but no, there's a lot of diehards up there. There'll be excuses made, and the politicians will spin it a certain way, but it'll eventually end because it's such a disaster. I mean, this is a sign that the delivery of health care will even be worse than signing up for the health care. So it's a tax in many ways because the insurance policies have gone up. But the big thing that they've never asked and never talk about is, you know, the government's supposed to be involved in contracts and having policies. One is to guarantee the policy, and you can't cancel it. But here the government gets involved, and all of a sudden the insurance companies can cancel you willy-nilly. The insurance companies thought they were going to get a big deal because they were going to get a lot more customers. But then they had mandates. They had to put certain things on, and it's skyrocketing. I think the cost of medical care, when it's all added up in a year or two, it's going to be huge. It's going to be like a tax, and the quality of care and what people are going to get. Everybody tells me, yep, they're canceling me, they're charging me more, I'm getting less, and they're furious. It's going to be the biggest political issue in the whole next year, or this year, in this year's campaign.
But we can't get rid of it in the near term. It cannot be reversed for some time to come. The question is it so entrenched that you really cannot repeal it totally and get rid of it completely?
No, you're not going to get rid of it. You're right about that. They're going to limp along. If Republicans win in the fall, they may tamper it a bit and tinker with it and change it a bit. But the only way it's going to disappear quickly is if it totally self-destructs, which is conceivable. Everybody just quit because they're getting nowhere with it, and they just opt out. Today, even if you're of modest income, if you go to a doctor and say, hey, look, all I want to do is pay you cash, and give me some services. Believe me, it's very, very cheap. The one problem is that if they do it, they might be breaking some federal law. You know, if they're dealing with the government in any way, and they come in, if somebody comes in and says, well, this $500 procedure, that it costs that much, I'll do it for $100, the doctor can get in trouble with that and be penalized and convicted of a crime. But one day it's going to be so bad, people are just going to opt out on their own. What we need to do is change the Congress and allow people to get out of this monstrosity as soon as they want.
Do you think there's a direct relationship between the new taxes on healthcare premiums, on plans themselves, and the spike on insurance itself, and the spike in premiums that we're seeing? Is there a relationship between the two?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I think the insurance companies sort of had a quid pro quo that they could raise these fees. I think it's all a tax, whether the insurance company raises their fees or there is a tax directly from the government. It's all a tax. And if you talk about inflation, as you know, medical care is a significant percentage of our cost of living, and it's going to go up hugely. So we have inflationary costs and quality going down and people angry, and all we need to do is a right to opt out and have a little bit of competition.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Congressman Ron Paul, sorry I'm out of time. Love to talk to you all day on this one. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Good to see you again.
That with news, Obamacare contractor blamed for slow Medicare payments to hospitals. Contractor building the financial management system for healthcare.gov is being blamed by a Houston hospital for delayed Medicare reimbursements that have caused the hospital to miss payroll payments for weeks. Novitas Solutions is the federal government's new Medicare payment processor for the South Central region of the country, hired by Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, CMS, a division of the Health and Human Services Department. It says, according to the CEO, Jason Leaday, more than 150 employees have not been paid in nearly a month. The hospital is strapped for cash, not because it is not making money, but because Leaday says a new Medicare payment facilitator, Novitas Solutions, is taking way too long to pay out Medicare claims to the hospital.
And welcome to the Affordable Care Act, where nobody gets paid. The only way to, folks, the only way to fight this, and I mean fight this, and I'm taking a stand, and I'll tell you, I've got no problem doing this. I will not play. The only way to win this game is not to play. I'm not signing up.
What about those poor hospitals? I mean, obviously, one signing up or enrollment has nothing to do with this, but
correct.
You know, these hospital workers that haven't got paid for a month, that have children and families to support. I mean, that's crazy.
My heart goes out to them. But in many of these cases, now again, my heart does go out to those people, the employees in particular, but the hospitals themselves, in many cases, are trying to get ahead of and trying to game the system. So they're trying to work within, not only work within the law, but or the so-called Affordable Care Act, but they're trying to game the system a little bit in a lot of these cases. You've got to watch this. You're not going to find this being reported. No one's reporting this. What they're doing, I was talking to my doctor about this, and he knows what's going on with the hospitals. He's on one of the boards of one of the hospitals. He can see from the other side. And I told him flat out, look, I will, if I have to see you, I'll pay you in whatever you'll charge me. I mean, heck, I remember when doctors used to come to your house for $12. Does that make me old, by the way?
Back in the 20s?
Come on now. but anyway, but the only way to win is not to play. I refuse to comply. I will not comply. And I just want to say, Paula from Arizona, God bless you. Thank you for your email. Just a great listener. Thanks for listening, and great person. Okay, Joe.
We're going to go to our break and come back with Stan Deo. And during our break here in this January 2nd edition, 2014, our second show of 2014 on this Thursday. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Thursday, January 2nd, 2014. Yes, I said Thursday, and even though it's Thursday, we are joined by our regular Tuesday guest, Mr. Stan Deo. He is coming on the same time as usual, second hour. We unfortunately had the holidays fall in a way that we had taken 2 Tuesdays in a row off, and people have been asking, where is Mr. Deo? We miss him.
We need our fix. We need our Stan Deo fix. And well, I'll tell you. And folks, let me just say this. If you haven't done so already, please, because we don't know how long we've got, please grab yourself a copy of Dare to Prepare and also Cosmic Conspiracy. Buy them both. And also the CD, Prudent Places USA. I got to tell you, we will... and I know Joe and I will be using Dare to Prepare quite a lot for reference purposes, and we have in the past. Recommend that highly, as well as Cosmic Conspiracy. Say gets into some very interesting and very critical topics. Now that I took a lot of time up, Stan, welcome.
Thank you, guys. I've been hiding for a couple of weeks, I guess. We took a bit of time off over the holidays.
Oh, well, that's great.
They were good. They were good. We actually rested a lot and read a bit, and had time to actually read a book, which is very unusual for us, time-wise. We used to read a lot, but now then, anyway, we plug into our iPad or our Kindle Fire thing that Holly's got, and download books and read them with gay abandon these days. But we have to steal the time here and there, and we found some, so we just went offline and read the books, and I think it kind of irritated one of the guys in your listening group because he thought that we hadn't updated the website, which Holly still did, and especially the Hagmann report thing about when I was going to be on next. And she told him, in the website there that it was to be announced. We didn't know when it would be, but, that's because of holidays. And, yeah, he got a bit upset, but that's the way it is. He just doesn't understand how it works.
Well, yeah, it seems like we get many of those. What can you do? It's you take a little bit of time for yourself, and wow, it's incredible, Stan.
Yeah, you got to wonder how many of these people actually donate to what we give to people free to help us keep on air. I mean, it's usually the ones that have no conscience to even help you that come and complain when you're on here.
Joe and I were just talking about that very same thing.
Were you?
Yeah, exactly. We were, and I got to tell, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you something. Stan and Holly, I help a lot of people in a lot of ways. I'm not going to say any more than that, but books and just everything. Trust me when I say they do a lot for people. And it's amazing to me to see what they've done for so many people. And they have somebody, and you know what, Stan? 90%, and this is what Joe and I were talking about. More than that. It was almost to the email. Every email person, everyone sending us an email that complains about something, never spent or never did anything to assist us. It's always complaints. And it's that expectation of what is that? Expectation of
freebies.
It's that mentality, which I guess we have to live with, I suppose. But
you are right. The majority of people that read or listen to what we both teams do understand and appreciate it, and so there's no point to writing, and they have nothing to complain about, and they're good folks, and realize what we have to go through to produce the stuff for them. It's the minorities that really don't understand, and they bite us, and unfortunately they're the ones that email.
But one thing I've noticed too, Stan, and then we can move on, and I think this has a lot to do with people in general as well in our listening audience. I've been hearing from people where the level of betrayal by people, family members, friends, people, coworkers, people who are out working and living, the betrayal is getting exceptionally bad. I mean, we've had people that we've given a lot to, I think, that have turned around and made just incredible accusations against us of frauds and idiots, and of course, idiot's nice, but but I've noticed this mindset of people. Have you noticed that that people are kind of turning on others?
Yeah,
wow.
We even see it out there just in the in the marketplace when you go to shops and things like that, with groceries and stuff. You'll see it. Over the holidays, it was pretty good, but I'm sure it'll go back to the way it was before holidays, where you see people very irritable and stuff, and probably. If you think about it, with good cause, because whether somebody's betraying them or whether it's just the government betraying them or the system, they're still frightened for their jobs, frightened for their savings, frightened, for a lot of the news reports that come out about problems with the sun and with meteors and this and that and diseases, and it's kind of sinking into people, and especially when it hits their pocketbook. They're so worried about all this that they get irritated, because they're frightened. They can't fix it, and I can identify with that. Sometimes it's hard for you and I to to be nice to people that are being that way to us, but we have to look past that and say, why are they doing that? Would I do that in their position? And when you do that, you start to cool off and say, okay,
that's something I guess I never really factored into the equation is other people's fear, and I suppose that fear is the driver or a motivator, one of the motivators of that type of mentality. So thanks for helping me on that. I understand.
Well, I'm just sharing with you. I don't know whether it's helped. I'm just sharing what we experience around here. Holly will come home sometime from the grocery store and say, I met some interesting folks today, and right away what that means is they, usually have been very grumpy about this and that. But anyway, it's passed. Listen, I hear you guys are having bad weather over there.
It's our usual January, I don't know what you call it.
Mystery.
Yeah, except for the 40-mile-an-hour wind speeds with 20 below temperatures with those wind speeds. That's a little abnormal.
We can only see about 4 feet outside of the studio window here in our studios. It's really blizzard conditions. We've got, I think, 40 inches on the ground, almost 4 feet on the ground.
I think you were there.
We're the number one ranked city, snowiest city in the country right now, with a population over 100,000. And I think that was updated on the first one I checked. All the snow melted we got a few weeks back when we did get almost 40 inches, 35, 40 inches of snow. But now we have almost the same amount on the ground again. And
I'm looking at the wind map, the storm map that suspicious observers put up. I can see where it's been flowing across the Great Lakes and then curling around over the New England states. And I believe you. Did you give a bit of a lecture to folks about power generation and safe ways to do it, things, and how to get it out of Holly's book?
We talked about wood-burning furnaces, and my father and I were discussing at the beginning of the show, imagine being stuck in your house with the power out and it's this cold out, and imagine this being a long-term scenario. And he made reference to your book, but we did not talk about where in the book.
Well, there's probably 4 main chapters. I mean, it's spread throughout in various mentions, but I think chapter 29 through 32, they go into, Holly goes into like what generators, how to choose them, what you need, and fuel, how to store it. I mean, we bought our propane gas tank out here. It's a 500-gallon tank. We bought it from the propane company, even though we went over to natural gas, piped-in gas. And we've got 400 gallons is what it holds, really, but 400 gallons of propane gas. Sorry, what? Oh, yeah. She was just telling me how we use this in an emergency, which we haven't had that many of here yet. But with the propane big tank like that, you can get a little adapter, a little kind of brass adapter you screw onto the top of the tanks, and you can fill your 20-pound propane gas bottles that you take camping. So we bought a bunch of those, and we keep those so that we can cook on our cooker. We can run light. We can run heating. Just draw it off of that 500-gallon tank reserve, which is, as I say, only holds 480% fill. But, you can do little things like that to help you endure disasters, particularly meteorological disasters, which they pass. They don't last, but a week or two, and then the aftermath is cleanup. We've got, diesel generators, small ones, nothing big or fancy, and a little bit of diesel fuel stored up to take us over, and some gasoline for the car so we can go get some more fuel if it is available later. These are little simple things you can do to endure the heart of a crisis. Now, if we do have the day after tomorrow type thing scenario where, huge ice storms bury you in 12 feet of snow or something and aren't going away for a while, then people are going to need to be looking at safer ways to keep themselves warm. Won't be any problem keeping food stored because it'll be cold enough. But, we've gone through all this, Holly and I, testing various things, and, how you can use candles to cook with and candles to light with. We don't particularly like these spiral light bulbs. The fluorescent things, because there's just a number of faults with them, and they aren't practical.
You sent a comment. I don't know if you were listening in. We were talking about the light bulbs.
Yeah.
and the availability now, they won't be available, these 40,
That's right.
60, 75-watt light bulbs. Yeah, if you could go over some of the pros and cons of these light bulbs and the new light bulbs, and clarify actually the process if one breaks, because we were talking about warnings of having hazmat teams to come in to clean it up, to taking several steps to do it yourself.
Look, I know they get all excited about this mercury in it, and certainly it is a hazard to people that don't know how to handle that kind of stuff. But quite honestly, I used to play with liquid, with mercury at my dad's lab, and we'd coat dimes and pennies with it, and they'd shine, and we'd hold them in our fingers, and we'd push the mercury across by blowing on it, or we'd freeze it in liquid nitrogen and then watch it melt. I mean, in those days, we didn't worry about it too much, and so far I haven't died yet from mercury poisoning.
You know what, Stan? I did the same thing, I got to tell you. I played with mercury, the little balls,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. Okay.
It's probably not wise. Okay, in the long run, it's not wise. I played with beryllium oxide, which is a white powder, when I was making artificial emeralds years ago, and come to find out it was among the top 10 toxins in the world. And when I went to throw it away, I had to take it to a hazmat team at Texas Instruments there in Richardson, Texas. Had to drive it there myself in a double plastic container. And when I got on my car to give it to them, open up my trunk, here come guys in moon suits with tubes sticking out and all this kind of stuff, and take it out of my trash can in the back of the car. So, well, here it is, and handed it to them. But, this is a deadly toxin. And I said, well, what are you going to do with it? And, here's the kicker. We're going to bury it in a salt mine over in Louisiana. Oh, dear, I laughed.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. But anyway.
One thing I got to tell you, Stan, it's amazing when you bring these memories up. I did find a container, a small container. Imagine like a small, I don't know, jar of olives. And inside was a powder, but the jar was intact, and it actually had a seal on it. Okay, and I called the fire department. I called. I shouldn't say the fire department. I called the dispatch, and I said, "Look, this is not an emergency. I found this. What do you want me to do with this?" And I don't remember what the substance was, but it was something pretty nasty if it was exposed. And I could hear the person looking it up on in the book or whatever, and I remember him saying, "Well, where is it?" And I told him where I was, and I said, "Look, I've got it in my hand." "Oh, you don't hold it, don't hold it." I said, "It's in a jar." It's really, and I'm not kidding. Within like 10 minutes, we had two rescue fire truck type things and guys in suits, and it's like, here, just take the thing, will you? I mean, it's not. I was expecting to see a moon type landing crew come, but yeah. Anyway, sorry about that.
I did get the moon suit. I mean, they were those plastic suits with the hoods and pipes coming out to breathe, and gloves and boots and stuff, all sealed off, and walking out in the parking lot. And I didn't laugh right there in front of them, but I thought, good grief. Anyway, now back to lights. These spirally jobbies that come from China, these super cheaper, all singing, all dancing, spiral fluorescent-filled bulbs that take the place of our old Edison bulbs, the incandescent bulbs. They don't last as long as they say they will to start with. They're not 7-year bulbs, that kind of stuff. They break pretty quick. And within a couple of years, we've tested a bunch of them. And the other thing is they contain some mercury vapor and whatever, and other toxic chemicals in the coating. If you break them, you do have to be very judicious and not breathe the stuff in and clean it up. So you don't want to be doing that, especially in a crisis where there's no one there to help you from the hazmat teams. The other thing is they don't put out as good a light as the incandescent bulbs. I prefer incandescent bulbs or LED bulbs, which last a long time, do put out significant light. I mean, they're not going to blow you out of the chair, but I've got bulbs outside that put out like, say, a 100-watt light bulb on the garage out of LED things in the sensors. And those lights only consume enough energy for, say, like 70 watts, but they put out the light that the old 100-watt incandescent bulbs would do. And it's good. It comes on instantly, and I like that. The other thing is, I think Larry, one of your listeners there, wrote in a question about these spiral bulbs, and they have a little circuit in the base of them that has to raise up a frequency to make the gas ionize in these things and then produce light for you to see. And he said, what happens in an EMP attack? Well, I'm pretty sure if you had these bulbs plugged in, that the power to them through the house wiring would probably affect the circuits and short across them. Now, whether the circuits are hardened for that or not is another thing. But being so cheap, probably not. As far as those kind of bulbs stored in a storeroom, not connected to the mains or anything, they may survive. I don't know, depending upon where you put them in your house and how you protect them. My idea would be not to depend on those kind at all. They've just got so many things wrong with them. Low light, toxicity, and whatever.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you telling me you don't have a storage facility or a place set up where you experiment and EMP things to see if they don't work afterwards?
No, can't quite afford to do that. If they don't survive, they're gone.
Okay.
No, look, there are going to be things that people tell you will not survive an EMP attack if they're not properly grounded and shielded in metal. That will, but it will depend upon topography of the land around you, upon the nearness of power lines and atmospheric conditions, just all kinds of things that may let some things survive. In the end, if we have multiple EMP attacks or if they are multiple EMP events from the sun itself, we can't predict them, and you can't store forever and ever. I mean, you're not going to be able to store like 15 of everything you need in 15, different storage containers. Eventually, you're going to run out of those key items. So, one or two maybe deep, but just understand that you're not going to know when an EMP is coming. If you happen to be running that device at that time, it could get fried. I think some cars will survive it, some of the older cars, particularly in the 70s. But I was listening to part of your discussion in the last hour about light, and I remembered I'd done a study years ago on the evolution of light in our communities and how it went from like oils and candles and then to electrical ones of some sort or other. And these are all in light sources, like there'd be a light bulb, and the light comes from that, hits you in the walls and casts a shadow behind you and that kind of stuff. The ultimate design for light for you to see, in the universe will be something that comes from the environment around you. So instead of having a single light bulb, you could make every atom in the air around you a light source by hitting it with a particular frequency or series of frequencies, and it will emit light in various bands of electromagnetic radiation. Now, they won't all be invisible light to, like we can just look at it with our naked eye, but the light will be visible if you have a converter lens as a contact lens or genetically engineered into your eye to see more frequencies than we see in the visible light. And when that happens, you'll have light all around you from infrared, from some ultraviolet, all kinds of stuff, and visible things, so that when it's coming from these particles around you, every atom becomes a light bulb, and you won't see a shadow of anything because the light will be everywhere, going in all directions at once. And it's really a neat concept to think about. And when you think about it, the universe needs light for us to see and navigate, and whether it be light visible or whether it be electromagnetic radiation in the non-visible spectra. And I sometimes wonder if these reports of little grave people, the alien-type things that abduct people and have these big black eyes, if those aren't either manufactured-type lenses that convert certain wavelengths into visible, like, so you can see in the dark, or whether they are actually engineered biologically or, to a cyborg of some sort so that they can see light in the ranges we can't. They can see plants, the heat in them and animals and when they're sick and that kind of stuff. And, the more you dwell on this kind of stuff, just the imagination runs wild. It's just fantastic. No shadows, no darkness. The universe needs light, not darkness.
Amen. And a commenter here in the chat room said the first thing that they thought of when they heard the Lord made light is, what kind of light is it and what does it look like? And, you're talking about the evolution of light. And many people who have had near-death experience talk about the color change. And I don't know if this is something we talked about, but how many more colors there are, the exponential amount of diverse colors that one sees when you're out of your physical body, apparently, is much more than we can fathom with our minds and our brains today. But no, we have so much in the way of newsstand to move on here.
Yeah, sorry, let's do. Sorry, I was having fun.
No, anytime. Fukushima, plumes of smoke, radioactive steam arising from the crippled nuclear plant. This is a story published yesterday, and it was edited today. Russia, also a Russian defense minister, I believe, warned of a 89-ton pile of steam or radioactive clouds coming towards the United States to be here within 48 hours. What have you seen in the reports that you've come across?
Well, I haven't put much faith in that one yet, considering the source. But we will probably have to be notified of this kind of stuff offshore from people that aren't U.S. citizens, or at least not on the lower 48 or whatever, to avoid problems with the government. We do know for a fact, all of us, that the government doesn't tell you the straight story all the time for whatever reasons they justify it with. They don't do that. Now, Fukushima is definitely a problem, and it's getting worse. Now, the steam coming out of Reactor 3 or Building 3 is coming out, I think, around the 5th floor level. And as of a couple of hours ago, I'm not sure that they've been able to figure out what is producing the steam, at least the Japanese. The signs of radiation leakage already, I mean, what has already gone into the ocean, into the air, are just numerous. One site at activistpost.com posted 36 signs that tell you that the media is lying about Fukushima radiation affecting the West Coast. Now, Holly's got a link to that on the site. If you go up to our main website and just go over to either the featured stories or down to today's news, first one you'll hit will be over on the right, January 2nd, plumes of mysterious steam rise from crippled nuclear reactor at Fukushima. And if you do that, then you can follow the things they're talking about. There's several articles that you should read. I won't bother with all of it at the moment, but the amount of steam in that Russian reported thing, I can't comment because I don't know how they measured it, or if it was an accurate measurement. It might be something to just further dishearten Americans on the West Coast.
Okay. What about the 14 million, this article also up at standout.com, the 14 million government orders of potassium iodide?
Well, Holly's got that article up there, plus she's got a snap of the government order that ordered these potassium iodide shots or pills. They are in a little aluminum foil bundle. And so you can go and see the actual order that the government placed, so that it's not a mistake. I mean, Holly's dad used to work for that department of the government before he died. And so she tells me, she assures me that this is a department that you better listen to if they're involved in this. The potassium iodide, to answer another one of your listeners' question, the potassium iodide will help you by filling your thyroid gland with potassium iodide into the cells that would normally absorb radioactive iodine or various other things that your body's looking for, particularly from milk and dairy products. Now, you need to take that on a daily basis, depending upon the dosage and the pills you've got. You may have to take it twice a day, but the object is to keep your thyroid loaded with this stuff so that it won't try to absorb it from external food sources. So if you think that your area is going to be exposed or is being exposed now to raised radiation levels from Fukushima there on the West Coast, then, my advice would be start taking it now, and that will help you with some of the problems with that, because what we're talking about is mainly thyroid cancers, and the foods and things are fairly easy to test, like if they're exceptionally radioactive, and through established or reliable food dispensers, then you can be sure you're safe eating the foods, except for fish. Fish from the Gulf, fish from the Pacific Ocean, anywhere, any seafood is suspect at the moment, and especially like starfish have been turning to jelly because they're on the bottom of the ocean, and these radioactive isotopes, some of them are falling to the bottom in the mud and stuff where these starfish live, and it's just causing them to have their form of cancer very rapidly turn into mush and die. Oh, it's if you read the 36 things they don't tell you, I mean, it gets to be very spooky. Let me just see some of them here. Okay, item 4. 71 U.S. sailors who assisted with the initial Fukushima relief efforts have developed serious diseases such as testicular cancer, thyroid cancer, leukemia, unremitting gynecological bleeding, and brain tumors since that time as a result of exposure to radiation coming from Fukushima. Now, granted, they were over there, right next to it, and it got fallout on the naval craft and whatever. So, okay, you can say, well, that was their problem. They were there at the wrong time. But then you look at bald eagles disappearing. In Utah, the numbers have dropped off. You look at how many dead birds are washing up the coastlines of Alaska from that are seabirds, and in Oregon as well. And then you see seals and walruses up in Alaska losing their hair and getting oozing sores. I know this sounds gross, but that's what's happening. And it goes on and on for 36 points here. Dangerous levels of cesium-137 have been discovered in mushrooms and berries grown where? Along the west coast of the United States. So are you eating mushrooms and berries from there? Don't know, but might be an idea to check. Sadly, these little electronic radiation detectors you can buy for yourself for a few $100s will detect radiation in the air and various other places, but when you come to foods with water content, they aren't as good. It takes a little bit of effort, some plastic bags to put the material in, and 2 or 3 types of readings on it, and then you might be able to determine the raised radiation level of the food you've got, whether it be fish, steak, or vegetables or whatever. It's difficult to run your device over them in the store on the shelves without touching them and without bagging them to get a true background reading, and then the acceleration over that this food might have. So you can't depend on those little things to tell you whether your food is safe entirely. You're just going to have to, take the iodine tablets if you wish, and hope for the best.
Taking the tablets for those who are not allergic. Obviously, some people suffer minor allergy problems with that, but if you're not allergic, that's definitely a good idea. And I don't think we had a chance to talk about this with the gap we had in having you on, Stan, but did you see the reports of China disallowing food from seafood from the West Coast, denying it to be imported into China?
Yeah, I think I did read one article on that. There probably were several, but yes, China is smart about that, and China is also smart about the H7N9 or whatever it is, that new virus, that bird flu type of virus. They're playing with ways to make it so that you can't take an antiviral or viral effect reducer pill to fight it, and so they've had a number of deaths, a few hundred deaths there in China. They've been experimenting with it. If it becomes a military biowarfare instrument, then the way they're making it so that you can't fight it, your body resistance will not be able to fight it the way they're designing it. And it's only one of several things, several types of things that Chinese are doing, and our enemies, perhaps the Russians as well, to figure out ways to kill off Americans and other people who would stand in the way of where they're heading. And China and Russia have a pact to try to get rid of the United States and to then sort it out between themselves, Russia and China, who's going to rule the world after that. At least that's their long-term plan. I think the Russians are going to come up the short end of the stick there. But China, we've got to watch for a number of reasons. When they start denying food into their country from our western shores, there's a problem.
Absolutely. And they blame...
Wait a second. Stan, can you expand on that? Because it sounds like there's more to it than just the fear of radiation or the prohibition of food due to the potential radiation. Is this a political maneuver, a warlike geopolitical maneuver by China?
It could be serving a number of vectors from the Chinese. It could do, as you say, it could induce fear into the American population on the West Coast and people in the United States interior and the East Coast who depend upon the Western coast foods that are produced or harvested or whatever. That's a fear effect. That's one vector from them. The other vector might be that they do know that the food is dangerous, and for that reason they're going to protect the Chinese. They know what to eat and what not to at that rate, and preserve their people rather than the Americans to let them just suffer what has happened. There might be a third vector where they are doing this on purpose, and they want the radiation to be blamed on Japan. I mean, there's just a number of political and military objectives that might be achieved by announcing this publicly. The main thing, I think, is psychological warfare and some radiation damage. I do know that there's quite a bit of it on the West Coast that's coming to light now, but they're taking advantage of it. The Chinese are to further demoralize the American public. It hits the American economy because people stop consuming from long-established food producers and harvesters there on the West Coast. Oh, I'm not going to eat that, they say, because that's fish or that's shrimp. And it might well be a good advice, but it's still hurting our economy when people are made more and more aware of the danger by the Chinese press. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask a question here. In fact, one of the listeners had sent an email about this. If, without regard to any religious or prohibitions, would you eat, if you were in America today, or Canada, regardless, would you eat any type of shellfish, whether it be clams or lobster or shrimp?
Especially those items, no, because they're bottom feeders, and the heavy metals, some radioactive and otherwise, are in these things normally. But the concentrations of these things at the moment would make me not trust any shellfish. I say that. We have had some shrimp here at home that we had in the freezer for a while, but I'm not particularly fond of thinking I'm going to have to eat shellfish, clams, or anything else right now. They're on the bottom, and where the silt is and where the heavy metals deposit, they process that through their filters, especially the clams, and shrimp too, lobster. I mean, crabs. We love king crabs from up north, but Alaskan king crabs, but Holly's getting after me here because she said that's what she wanted for New Year's dinner, and I vetoed it. But I got in trouble trying to protect us. That's it.
I'm with Holly on that one. I'd take the dangers and eat the crab. I think as good as it tastes.
Yeah, she's sitting over here playing her little violin. Yeah, cry me a river. Yeah, okay.
We're down in the Hagmann household. We're down to pizza, and of course that's our breakfast of champions. Okay. Anyway,
I love it.
But that's an interesting point that you make. The shellfish, if you don't recommend it, and this is something that it affects all of us. I mean, or the majority of us who do consume this food. What about what about the plumes? For example, the cows that are grazing in the middle in Nebraska and elsewhere in the middle of the country, they're affected, are they not, by the radiation from the fallout from the rain and it gets into the ground?
Yeah. To what degree, I don't know. I think your radioactive detectors, as far as your personal dwellings and things like that, would be of use in telling whether you're getting radioactive gases in the air or rainfall or snow that's radioactive. But even there's a problem with the wet stuff, because it does screw up some of these amateur type radiation meters. As far as the reading, now as far as the herds and stuff being polluted by this, short of performing a very involved process to measure your steak at home, as I say, and you have to get it in a baggie and seal it off completely and do a test outside and then do a test up close and then do one inside, and there's a number of calculations you got to do, and even that's not going to be foolproof because of the water content. But certainly the animals that we depend on in our food chain are a concern because they're out there in the areas where we grow a lot of them in the West and Midwest and up north and down in Texas. All those areas do get water thrown in from the storms coming from Japan way over our way. You'll get them swinging down the Southern California area and through Texas, hitting those herds. You'll get them spinning up north through Washington State, Utah, and back in over Kansas, and some down into Colorado and Oklahoma. So, yeah, I mean, I think there will probably be some pollution there. How bad it's going to be, I don't know. I guess we've all got to die sometime, but you've got to be somewhat judicious in what you put into your body to survive. I know a lot of us have bought dehydrated or freeze-dried foods that were before all this radiation started. And, I think those are going to be safer than buying a lot of stuff you would normally get at the store as far as protein, things like that.
Interesting. Well, wow. And, of course, with the shelf life of 30 years in some instances, it predates the Fukushima disaster. Better off.
Yeah, look, I like that stuff. I mean, I like pancakes that we've got here. They're not Holly's pancakes, from scratch. But I mean, pancakes, throw in a bit of dehydrated blueberries and stuff like that, and boil it up, and hey, you've got pancakes. And we've got dehydrated, believe it or not, maple syrup and sugar. Is like normal sugar is sealed from doing all this kind of stuff, and so we use that. So we've got honey, and even though it goes crystalline, it's really good in that state. So these are all older things that we've kept in anticipation of this kind of a problem. Freeze-dried guy food, we get a lot of our stuff, or did get a lot of our stuff from him. We've pretty well stocked up for what we need for the family now. But, he was getting stuff from military sources, which in those days, I think was really high-grade stuff. I don't know how long that'll continue with this current administration and its laissez-faire type attitude toward our military. But anyway, there are some good buys probably still out there in freeze-dried or dehydrated foods. You just got to try to get some of the older stuff that's, a year old or something like that before 2012.
It reminds me of the beginning of the movie Vegas Vacation, where Chevy Chase has his family taste some milk and cookies, and he says, "This 30-year-old milk," and he's taking it out of the packages there. No, but the freeze-dried food, Freeze-Dried Guy and American Survival Wholesale, our two sponsors, still do have food from pre-Fukushima, and a lot of those foods are good at shelf life of 30 years, 20 years. So definitely something that people who have the means would want to look into, because, as you said, so much healthier than what is being used and put on our store shelves, as I think from genetically modified foods now that are all out there to the infected foods with radiation or whatever else is infecting it with. It's risky now, and I think this is why we are supposed to pray before every meal, pray over our food that the Lord would remove these parasitic and bacterial problems with the food from them before we eat them and keep us healthy.
Well, Holly and I do that every meal. It's, Lord bless this food to the nourishment of our body and make it kosher to our body so that it's, follows the kosher rules to us, and that's a healthy way to have the food in your body. Look, we can't even grow foods reliably now. Holly and I have been doing gardening and orchard and stuff for years, and this year we've noticed this stupid wilting disease, or virus it is, that hits tomato plants and a number of other plants like that. And we tried to grow, about 4 or 5 tomato plants this year, again, indoor in our kitchen. And this wilting disease, you get blossoms on it. You might get 2 or 3 tomatoes or something, and the plant's dying. The leaves curl up, go brittle, and drop off, and we can't kill it because it's in the soil, this virus. And it's plaguing greenhouses all across the country. When the good Lord backs off his protection on a country, I tell you what, things go wrong everywhere. And we're just, I don't know that people who are depending on growing their own food are going to be able to have the right frequency of sunlight to make them produce, because that's another important thing in growing stuff, whether they're going to have pollution-free air and rain. And if you can't grow it inside in an enclosure, in a greenhouse type thing, what hope have you got to grow food? You're virtually left with, okay, we're going to survive for 2 or 3 years on what food we've stored up and hope the disaster passes, or hope that we're not here. But these are the options facing us, and they're real.
Is this global, or is this really the northern hemisphere? I mean, I understand, obviously, ultimately this will affect the globe, but I mean, is this really going to a northern hemisphere event from Fukushima solely, or are we? I know that we're getting the brunt of it, but the reason I ask this, it's the Bush family having in the state, largest state in Paraguay, for example.
Yeah.
It kind of, I'm looking at this and thinking, well, wait a minute, is that safer there than, and will that be kind of a safe haven?
No. If they have food production for themselves on that land they've got in Paraguay, I'm sure it would be probably in greenhouses underground. The Fukushima disaster has already been putting radiation into water that is circulating along the west coast of South America. So you look at Ecuador, Peru, and all those, and Argentina, their coastlines are already being deluged with this stuff as well. It does cross the equator. The air and the water both will circulate to a degree down to the southern hemisphere. So you're not going to be totally protected in any of those places. And
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Australia and New Zealand, volcano problem there with the Taupo caldera. That's going to go one of these days soon, I'm pretty sure. The last time it erupted just after, it's probably like a 160 AD or something like that. It produced 3 days of darkness in the northern hemisphere. The Chinese astronomers reported it. It threw so much ash into the air that they reported it. And when you get ash from a super volcano going like that, it may give you 1 whole year of lost crop production, or very minimal crop production, because it would be cloudy all the time and it would not allow enough light for your crops to grow. So there are a number of things that just geophysically that are a threat right now. It gets back to the fact you better prepare. As you're not part of the Bush family, you're on your own here with the rest of us, and you must prepare the best you can to preserve food. I mean, we've preserved, grape jelly we've made here from our trees and stuff. Preserve these things yourself, and at least you can trust that for X number of months or years. But you can do a lot of it yourself, whether you can afford the other things or not. You can do that if you can get fruit that is fairly clean. And I'm not even sure that's going to be a viable thing now. I mean, we didn't get any crops, any fruits off of our 15 trees last year. The strange weather conditions and temperatures killed off all the blossoms. And we had one apple on a Granny Smith tree that survived, and we missed it. We didn't go look when the rest of it died.
That's crazy. I got a listener question here. When you were talking about iodine, right. Iodine. This person that writes this, I've heard that there are different kinds of iodine. Something called nascent, NASCENT, nascent.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Iodine. Is there really any difference in terms of?
I don't know. I just noticed that this week. There's one guy that was selling it. I don't know whether it was. It might have been on Alex+Jones. I'm not sure, but nascent means what? New kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I wish I could answer all these questions, but I just don't have an answer on that one.
All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, we'll have to do to the person, the listener who posed that question. We'll have to do some research and get back with you on that. But,
well, there's nothing stopping them doing that. People should participate in this and get the information and email it to you and say, look, here's what I found on it, and that way we all learn and they participate in helping us.
Absolutely, and we do have a lot of people who send us information. It's amazing. We spend a lot of time going through information by mail and also by email that people send us, and we do read everything. Don't have a chance to respond to everything, but we do read everything. It's really we're really blessed to have a fantastic audience. Now. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. I was just saying that they can look up on the internet nascent, NASCENT, iodine.
Right.
And the United Health Directory has some cautions on what it could cause as far as brain damage. I'm looking at a bottle of it here on the screen at the moment. I don't know, just quickly scanning here, that it's going to answer all the questions. But if you just put in to your browser nascent iodine, and perhaps dangers as well, but nascent iodine, where you can get what it does for you and what the risks are, taking too much or too little. Nothing is 100% fixed, but
right.
You
know. Now, when you had talked earlier about the order from the federal government of the blister packs of iodine, it's my understanding. Now, I was looking at this early this morning, and I mean really early, so we're talking pre-coffee early, so I could be wrong on this. Would this really boil down to like 700,000 approximate people that this would take care of? In other words, it sounds like a lot, but according to the dosage and how they're packaged, are we looking at a lesser number of people perhaps in the 700,000 range, or under 1 million people, that this 14 million doses of iodine would take care of?
Well, let's say you wanted to run that for 30 days. It'd take care of 233 people.
Okay. So
two pills a day. If you take only one pill a day, then it would reach about 467 people. It's not a lot. It's if you're going to use it for a week, okay, that will extend it to maybe like 7,000 or 8,000 people. It's not a lot, really, as you're saying.
So we automatically think, for example, we automatically equate this order with to Fukushima. Perhaps we might be too quick to do that. Maybe there's an alternative explanation. Maybe that this is obviously there's an expiration date on iodine tablets, I would imagine, right? Or not.
They're packaged, yeah. Depending on how they're packaged.
Okay.
They're pretty much a straight chemical, unless some water is involved in the crushing and making the pill. But I'd say they last quite a while in pill form, anyway.
All right. So would we be reasonable to equate this order with something related to Fukushima, or could we be just perhaps looking at this and saying, well, you know what, it's really not that large of an order in relative to the bullets or the ammunition?
Yeah, look, I think that it would be premature to say that's Fukushima related. As you say, that when you start talking millions, people panic. But if you just do the math, even one pill a day and run 30 days, then you divide 30 into 14 million, and that tells you, at one pill a day, which may not be enough, how many doses there are. And in that case, they could handle, for 30 days, let's see, one a day, they could handle 466,000 people. And that's not millions. And, if you take 2 per day, or if you take them for 60 days, it goes in half of that or even a fourth of that. So between 100,000 and 460,000 people, that might be used for a short period of time. How long is the radiation threat going to persist? I mean, if we're talking Fukushima, we've got a long time. We've got measured in the years. So it's not a lot, and it will be a target amount for a smaller group, I reckon, whether it be military guys or whether it be employees of nuclear plants living near fault lines that might break the plant open or what, I don't know. But it is not a lot.
Okay. We have a few minutes left, Stan. Is there anything that we didn't cover, or anything that we should talk about that's on your radar that we need to get into?
Let's see here. Yeah, most of that's been covered. I'm just looking at what I've got here. I did mention just briefly the images or the animations of the wind patterns that Suspicious Observer uses. Those nice green and yellow and red lines that show tornadoes or hurricanes forming, that kind of stuff. That would be something worth people taking a look at. It's earth.nullschool.net. Current wind and isobarics and all that kind of stuff. But maybe I'll send you. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll copy that, and I will find you here somewhere. Where are you guys? Can't find my fic to you type thing. Instant message. Maybe that'll do. There we go. Okay, I'm going to send you this link, and I think it's just really quite cool. It takes a supercomputer to do it, but it's a daily thing updated every 3 hours, and it just kind of tells you what's happening and gives you a very good idea of what you need to prepare for. Anyway, try that thing. Did you get it? Did you get it, Joe?
Yeah, I popped it up here, and it's amazing. It looks awesome.
Well, whoever Suspicious Observer is, that he's collected a number of these interesting geophysical and solar system type related sites with enough information to kind of give you an idea of when the planet, for that matter, is at threat. But I just find it very, very good research here to find all these sites. He's done a good job.
Yeah, and hopefully we can set up doing that show as I mentioned earlier. We were asked, and the Suspicious Observer is friends with full spectrum survival people, and they wanted to get together and do a show with you, and with all your knowledge, scientific knowledge you have, and with this gentleman that's put together, if we can do that, I think it would be great. And
I've watched a few of his videos, his reports he puts out, and I find it a very learned treatment of the information. Not hysterical or anything else, but just here's the facts, folks. And it looks to me, that he's done extremely good research. I mean, he's a professional at this.
Well, that's good. I got to check out some of his stuff too, and we'll be in talks the next day, within the next day, and see if we can't put together a conference call and get that episode scheduled, and we'll have a big party here on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
The end of the world party, right?
Yeah, but regardless, next Tuesday we'll be back on schedule as long as you're free, and
yep.
I hope everybody out there is as happy and satisfied as I am with their weekly dose of Standale on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Stan, I'll tell you what, I still cannot believe, having listened to you in Coast to Coast, I never ever thought in my wildest dreams that we'd actually be in a position to have this relationship. It's just I'm just honored to be able to have you on our show, and thank you so much.
You guys are doing the hard work. I mean, you do this every day, or at least 6 days a week. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know that I could do that. It's just too hard.
It's a challenge, to be sure, but we certainly want to thank you for your time, your generous gift of time. And I know sometimes it gets to be a drag, and but I'll tell you, there's just so much information out there that we need to be aware of, and you've really given us a lot to think about today, Fukushima related, and even back to the light bulbs. That affects everybody. It affects our daily lives, and we just need this information. So
look, Holly she goes down, and we got our spares stocked up, but Walmart still have a lot of this stuff. You can if you can get into their buyers club or whatever, into the superstore. She's saying it's not Sam's, just Walmart does it. Sam's has just the curly bulbs, but Walmart has the filament bulbs, the incandescent ones, and so she's been finding them there in adequate quantities because nobody's figured out yet they need to buy it up. So try Walmart. I know it's China Mart, but still, the bulbs are there. We need. Obviously, I certainly just heard from Margot in Oklahoma, who purchased a large quantity of bulbs, and I think that we need to be proactive in this until we can get this law changed. If we can, I don't know, but my goodness.
Well, thank you, Stan.
Well, thank you, guys. I'm glad to hear that you had a reasonable holiday in spite of the medical issues.
And yes, we're all, we all have our wagon to pull, I suppose. But really appreciate you being on. And until Tuesday, back with Tuesdays with Stan. We really appreciate it.
All right.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless. See you.
All right.
Bye, Joe.
See you, Stan. Thank you.
All righty. Holly says bye.
Bye, Holly.
Holly.
And thanks for the picture of those big king crab legs. Those look so good. But that was Stan on a out of our unconventional day on this Thursday. But that's okay. It's been
we'll be back in gear next week with Tuesdays with Stan.
I'm going to wake up tomorrow thinking it's Wednesday morning, and it's been off with these holidays, coming right in the middle of the week. It's nice because of the break you get.
We got 1 day, that's right.
We had 1 day each week, but right after that day, 2 more days, and then the weekend. So it breaks it up pretty nicely. But
confuses the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I think. Folks, you're listening to Hagmann and the Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me in studio, snowbound, is Joe Hagmann, my son. Together, we are the Hagmann and the Hagmann Report. Folks, you're listening to the only show where we provide, in my view, a good investment of your time when you listen to our program. I'll say this. Who among us wants to or will comply with the Affordable Care Act? Consider that in order to sign up for the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, let this be his legacy, that you will have to give out more information than Obama has given to become president or king or emperor of the United States. Really. Isn't that something? Consider that, folks. And consider a few other things. Consider the lunacy, the loyalty not to the country, not to us, but the loyalty to an emperor, the mindset of the Congress people, the people in power, the people you, me, or others voted into office. This loyalty to the people, not to the Constitution, has never been seen before in history. Well, maybe in the 1930s Germany. A couple of things. Don't forget, in 2008, and this Affordable Care Act, we've got to take a stand. You see, the only way to win is not to play. And if everyone stands up and says, nope, jury nullification on a large scale, that's what, we can vote with our pocketbooks. But you see, everyone's got to, the majority or all of us who are awakened, we've got to do this together in order to win. And yes, I am advocating this. I am advocating not playing the game. Don't forget Obama. Oh, Obama. Let me just repeat. If you've got a health care plan that you like, you can keep it. All I'm going to do is help you lower the premiums on it. You can still have period choices of the doctors. Yeah, period, exactly. You repeated this over and over. Harry Reid. In fact, one of our core principles is that if you like your health care, you can have it, or the health care that you have, you can keep it. And that's in the congressional record. August 3rd, 2009, Dick Durbin, Chuck Schumer, Patty Murray, Max Baucus, Tom Harkin, Tammy Baldwin, Mark Begich, Michael Bennett, Barbara Boxer, Sherrod Brown, Ben Cardin, Bob Casey from Pennsylvania, Kay Hagan, Mary Landrieu, Pat Leahy, Menendez, Merkley. We can go down the list. Of course, John Rockefeller, of course he likes to call himself Jay. Yeah, John Rockefeller. I want people to know the President's promise that if you like the coverage you have today, you can keep it. It's a pledge we intend to keep. That he said before the U.S. Senate Finance Committee hearing on September 23rd, 2009. Why am I saying all of this? Because what we're being fed is a lie. And let me just say this. Saturday Night Live's own Al Franken from Minnesota, the 60th vote on Obamacare. People who are happy with their current plan wouldn't need to change it. Of course, we know we've been lied to. But we must stand together. We must not submit. Now, what Joe was talking about earlier, this speaks to the genocide. Yes, genocide of the elderly. It's begun. The contractor building, the financial management system for healthcare.gov, delayed the Medicare reimbursements. That caused the domino effect. It caused the missed payrolls for weeks. We can blame this right on Novitas Solutions, which is the federal government's new Medicare payment processor, at least for the south central portion of the United States, hired by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, which is a division of Health and Human Services. But anyway, their CEO, Jason Leday, more than 150 employees haven't been paid nearly a month. Okay. The biggest lie has yet to be exposed. The feds tightening their grip over your doctor, my doctor, our doctors, and our health care. Section 1311 gives the Secretary of Health and Human Services blanket authority to dictate exactly how doctors will treat patients. Don't forget, this is being done by bureaucrats, not by physicians. So if they don't think, and we had talked about this, the foundation for this was laid in 2009 in the stimulus bill, in the stimulus package. This is where this is coming from. The architecture of this healthcare bill was done in 2009 in the stimulus package. Folks, this is an orchestrated takedown of our economy, an orchestrated takedown of our healthcare system, an orchestrated attempt or an orchestrated plot to kill us off. And it's almost hard for me to hear those words coming from my mouth. But that's what this is all about. It's rationing healthcare. You know, I watched my dad pass away from cancer, and I watched him get care. That care is not going to be available with the cost averaging. And I've got the formula from the stimulus package, but they take your age, and they take other conditions, and they take the cost of the treatment. And they make assessments. Are they going to get a return on their investment? Just think of it that way. And if not, you know what? You may not even be made comfortable. So why should we, as Christians, believers in the Constitution, why should we, in fact, be part of a godless, immoral plan? And this is where I will take my stand, along with the guns, along with all of the tyranny that's being pushed upon us. No more, not any further, no more. It's over. And if that causes any ramifications, I'll accept them. I already informed because we have a corporation, we have to file our taxes, and I already informed my accountant that there's just absolutely no way I will participate. I will not sign a tax form as a corporation or as an individual that has anything to do with Obamacare or payments or penalties or whatever. I'm not going to do it. So I will accept the consequences. But if we all do this...
Well, yeah, you're going to accept the consequences. We have a clip for you of, if you remember, a while back there was a push for the vaccine, and the news machines were pushing the vaccinations, and there was a lady on the news who said, quote unquote, as follows: you know, don't be a fearmonger. Parents, get your kids the damn shots. No, I'm paraphrasing what this doctor said. She has a different approach for Obamacare and signing up herself and her kids. She has forced her kids to sign up for Obamacare, calling it their patriotic duty. Take a listen.
As a physician, what's the biggest fix that can be done to ensure that better care, affordable care, gets to people who don't have it?
Well, I think there should be a single-payer system, and increasingly, you're seeing physicians in their late 50s, 60s, and 70s who are saying, you know what, we got it wrong. We should have taken Medicare and expanded it and done it smarter. Increase the bottom line for doctors so they don't feel like they're being nickeled and dimed with 10% less than Medicare. Docs just want to be reimbursed a fair amount for hard work. And this is making the terrain much, much, much more difficult.
But you know what's interesting? So you talked about your kids, and you talk about, one of the big challenges for Obamacare and the rollout so far has been how do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to sign up for health care, which was a dynamic prior to Obamacare.
Right.
How do we get the young and how do we get the healthy to get help? That was the reason they came up with that. Was the reason they came with the plan.
Well, I made my kids sign up because I just said this is your patriotic duty. The hard thing to sell.
I made my kids sign up, and I just said, this is your patriotic duty. What do you think she's going to say when the mark of the beast is here?
Well, let's call Children's Services on that woman, child abuse.
Endangerment of a child. I mean,
I don't want to editorialize too much, but look, I think we have to be smart in this, and I really do. If we can, and I don't think this is being editorializing. Has anyone heard, and I have not listened to talk radio, have other so-called conservative talk show hosts said, well, I'm not going to participate, I'm not going to play? Have they come right out and said that? I'm just curious. I'd like to know that. But I really believe
don't know.
The only, and of course, we can do this. There are other approaches as well. You can join a health care sharing ministry. Now, those are voluntary charitable membership organizations that agree to share medical bills among the membership. It's kind of like a small insurance group. They function similar to insurance and are probably the best alternative to conventional health insurance. There are 5 of them right now, and 3 are, I think 3 of the 5, maybe 4, but 3 are open to practicing Christians only. Okay, well, a 4th, that's Liberty Health Share, is open to anyone who agrees with their ethical commitment to religious liberty. Folks, there are people fighting this battle, and they're operating entirely outside of the Obamacare regulations, and they're doing it in I'll say in a legal manner. I don't know about you, but I have a very uneasy feeling because of what's coming. I do believe that this is going to be part of it, and if it is, well, let it be, because we've got to take a stand. But there are other options for funding major medical expenses, things like charity care, medical fundraising, and such, personal savings, retirement accounts, home equity loans. But none of those should be your choice, your first choice. I mean, really, are you gonna shell out? Are you gonna take a second or third mortgage to pay health care? I don't think so. But look into cash-only doctors. Talk to your doctor about that, because oftentimes they'll be much less, charge you much less, because there's a lot of paperwork with a doctor's visit. I'll tell you that right now. But there are a lot more options for anybody opting out of the Affordable Health Care Act, the Affordable Health Care System, inappropriately named. Anyone needing access to affordable health care. I do believe that we can really tank this. It's a bad law, if it's even a law, based on how it was developed. And we talked about this briefly last evening with Jim Garrow, where it originated and how it came to be, and of course the Justice of the Supreme Court, how he ruled and why he ruled the way he had. But nonetheless, this is important. It's going to affect all of us as we get into 2014 and 2015. By the way, the penalties are really not going to take into really affect you until 2015.
You know, jail is possible.
Yes.
A penalty. You can face jail time for not
well,
paying your fine.
Right. I think it comes under the contempt. Right. You've got what is it? The 2 years, and then you lose your driver's license, and then they can put a lien on your property. It's my understanding. Yeah. And then I believe,
I'm not sure about all the technicalities, but yes, there are a number of steps. Like people who might be not poor or not have the resources. And I just watched a clip where Obama was saying, this is from pre-ACA being law, saying, we do want the penalties to be high enough to where people can't game the system, but we don't want to put families who are overburdened and can't afford, the health care cost or the penalty. So there's going to be special exemptions and hardship regulations in here. But you're going to have to be allowed a hardship regulation, or you're going to face what you're talking about. We know the IRS can take the money right out of your bank account. They can garnish your wages. They can take your tax returns from you. They can start taking assets from you. Bury your house because they're coming for it.
Or, and perhaps some form of incorporation. Look, I don't know what the answers are, but I do know this. If everyone just said, no, we're not going to do this, then I think we would be much further ahead, because I believe the only way to win is not to play. And a different article or a different news piece here, InfoWars talked about this. This came up on our radar as well. What are the feds preparing for right now? The Department of Homeland Security, they're spending up to, close to $60 million to hire guards to protect 2 Social Security buildings in Baltimore. We saw this and we researched this a little bit. We found the story to be accurate, the information to be accurate. Now, the Federal Business Opportunities website, which is where you go, for example, if you want to engage in business with the federal government, the DHS awarded Paragon Systems, they are a security outfit, a contract not to exceed $58 million and change, to provide protective security officer services in support of the SSA, the Social Security Administration, in 2 locations in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, folks, what's going on here with this? Paragon, by the way, they perform armed and unarmed security services. They're multi-state licensed. In fact, they have the wand. When you get wanded, the magnetic wands and the magnometers and such, X-ray screening. They also have vehicle patrols as well. But the fact is this: the question we have is this: what's going on in these 2 buildings, or what is being prepared? What are they preparing for? Now, there were also, back in November, InfoWars reported on this, and we again confirmed this as well. The DHS was looking to hire armed guards with top secret clearance in Wisconsin and Minnesota, but and also don't forget, in upstate New York, there was, this is back in November, I think it was, or October, in upstate New York, right where we were working a year ago, or a year and a half ago. DHS $80 million outlay on armed guards to protect government buildings in upstate New York. And that was covered by Neil Cavuto. And he speculated that the feds were preparing for violence in response to cutbacks in the food stamp program. Remember that? Remember, we talked about that. But what's this all about? There's something not right about this. To me, there's something going on here that we need to pay attention to, I believe. And I wanted to bring that to the attention of all of our listeners. You're looking at a contract with a private security agency that'll be protecting 2 Social Security offices in the greater Baltimore area. There's something not right here. And it's not a sweetheart deal. It's not one of these backroom deals where this was posted on the FBO website, the Federal Business Opportunities website. The contract was awarded to Paragon Systems. But why these 2 offices? That's my question.
Why?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, or in this case, the $58 million question.
Okay. We're going to go take some calls as we have a few people on hold. We're going to go to 304 first. Thanks for calling in and being patient and holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Thursday, January 2nd. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, good evening, gentlemen. It's good to hear you again.
It's good to be heard, by the way.
What's on my mind? I listened to Steve Quayle and Alex+Jones the other morning, and boy, that was a fantastic show. Where are we going? Where are we heading? We see things dropping from the sky. We see it's just getting harder and harder and harder to exist on this planet, and we wonder what's going to be the end game. What's promised is this, that and it's happened before, and it's going to happen again. And anybody who wants to follow those gods and follow them down into a pit, that is soon going to happen. This much I do know. That's what I came here for, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to be put in a pit, and all those that follow them are going to go to that pit when the 4 winds of heaven have stopped blowing, in which they are blowing, and the angels in heaven and everybody, all the hosts, are all prepared for this day. And
well, caller, I believe that you and everyone listening to this broadcast, me, Joe, we were all meant to live in this particular time in which we live, and I really believe that we have got jobs to do. Do you believe that?
Yes, I know that. I know that's a fact, and each of us have our own job to do. And you guys, Doug and Joe, Steve Quayle, you guys are doing such a wonderful, wonderful job. But you're putting yourself out there. And Alex+Jones, you guys put yourself out there. Stan Dale. Such a great group of people out there right now fighting for us and fighting for their homes, their families, and for everything. I mean, this is not. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to say there's no hope, because there is a hope. There's always a hope, and it's always going to be with us. And even when that thing builds his temple and he sits on his throne and he declares himself to be God and he proves himself that he is God, there is going to be somebody out there knocking on the door saying, no, you're not God.
Well, right. And we know that the road or the path of the Antichrist, the Antichrist himself, he's going to have problems. we know that the path is not a smooth one, and it's our job to throw the monkey wrenches into the plan.
That's what your guys are. That's what you're doing.
And yes, and if we can see, that's the whole thing too. If we can if we can push back the calendar or the agenda of these antichrist, the spirit of the antichrist, the precursors to the antichrist, and we can push back the agenda where your granddaughter, your daughter, your niece, nephew, whatever, our children and our grandchildren can live in another day in a normal fashion. I think that's the best that we can do. And of course, if we can even go one step further and prosecute, and perhaps that's a bad word, but prosecute the people who are causing this, then that's even better.
God, I hope so.
Well, all right.
That's. I mean, it has to. We're here for the head. We're not here for the tail. We're here for the head, and he has to come here, and he knows his time is short. There's a reason why he knows his time is short.
Exactly. And
that's why we're seeing the intensification of spiritual battles, and
that's right.
Exactly.
So the manifestations,
so much so. It's a mind-numbing to think about it. But then you think about the other part, the promise. You think about the promise. Spending time with my family over the past couple weeks, my little ones, and boy, do I want them to have Obamacare. Is this the promise of what I want for them?
No, not at all. Not at all. My friend, thank you so much for your kind words.
Work,
all right, buddy.
Yes, thank you, guys.
All right. Good night. This time in which we live, I believe, Joe, to be one of the most important times. We do have a book, and China. Stan mentioned about China. I really think we've got to keep our eyes on China. Don't forget, too, I wrote an article New Year's Eve, while we were busy celebrating and watching the crystal trinket ball fall down in New York. What were the Chinese doing? Well, they were busy purchasing gold. Now, one thing, and I got a couple of emails about this, about Jim Garrow's position on gold. Look, I'm not clear on exactly what his position is, but here's my position based on the research I've done. And also talking with the gentleman from the Department of Homeland Security, I truly believe that we're going to see, and we are seeing, the manipulation of gold prices. I don't believe that the United States has any gold in the vaults. In fact, I've heard it said where the Fort Knox, some of the vaults of Fort Knox contain actual nerve agents, nerve gas, in storage. Now, I don't believe that we have any physical gold, or if we do, it's not what we say we have. And the last time it was audited was well over a half a century ago, and that was only just a visual audit. It was not a full audit. Germany, of course, they asked for their gold back, and we said, sure, we'll get it to you. And it's going to take about 7 years, but we'll get it to you. So I really think that there's a demand for the physical gold, so they're trying to smack down the price. And I mean, just think logically about this. They're trying to smack down the price per ounce to get as much gold from the weak hands and the strong arms. And once that takes place, once the transfer takes place, and this massive transfer of gold, of wealth now, I'm talking about wealth, is over, then you're going to see gold rise, the value of gold rise, as well as silver. And I believe that what the new economy is going to, and this is based on research, with the new global reset, when that takes place, do you really think that we're going to be backed by a gold currency on a global level? And I'd like everyone to think about that. Do you believe when the global economic reset collapse and then rebuilding happens, do you believe that we're going to end up with a gold-backed or a global currency backed by gold or silver? Or will it be just a Ponzi scheme on a global level, like it basically already is? I definitely consider that. I do believe that. I do believe that those people who have the ability to have gold and silver as a method of preserving wealth, and that's all that is. Of course, in addition to potential bartering and later, when necessary, they're ahead of the game because the tangible assets of gold and silver and food and water, of course, and ammunition and guns, but it's certainly gold and silver are a method to preserve your wealth. If you're trying to get into it for a quick fix, a quick, let's make a quick buck on this, that's the wrong attitude. And I see this all the time.
Yeah. And that's, that the prices are going to be fluctuating, the way the volatility that we've already seen is all you need to see. And some people will say, well, that's why I'm in the stock market. Well, you're not going to want to be in the stock market. I'd much rather have bought gold at $40 an ounce or silver at $40 an ounce and watch it go to 20 than have everything in the stock market and watch it go to nothing. At least at the end of the day, whatever the world values gold and silver at, it's still being held in your hands. And that is, one of the main points and main attributes of owning physical gold and silver or metals, if you can't afford it, is it's tangible. And it's not tangible paper. We're going to move on to another call. Do you have something you wanted to add? Okay. 416, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello?
Good evening.
Is that me?
That's you.
Hey, thank you, guys. Great shows. I love them dearly. I'm actually just putting a paper together on predictions for 2014. And I'm like yourselves. I do a lot of research. I look at a lot of different economists, all the way from Salenti to Martin Armstrong, Harry Dent, and a whole bunch of others, plus V, of all people. And the predictions seem to be coming into some consistencies. They look like the stock market's going to peak out at about 17,000 points, and then it could retreat. We should see gold go down a little bit. Some of them are predicting it's going to rally higher at the end of when the stock market corrects. But others, like Armstrong, and I don't know if you've ever read any of Martin Armstrong's stuff, he has a pretty good post. He says it's not going to rally until 2016.
Right.
I'm just the guy you described on the radio. I'm the guy that bought at the high, and I'm still sitting on it.
well. Yeah, I'm
your speaker. That was the guy that went to Pakistan. I don't know if you remember that talk we had when we had. Yes, I'm the same guy. Okay, you just know who I am. Okay. Anyways, back to what I see going on here. I don't know if I'm going to see a global gold-backed currency at the end of all this. I think they're going to allow it to go up to the very height. The guys that own it are going to bail. They're going to cash out what they can. And I think we're going to see a currency like Bitcoins. And the reason I say that is that when looking in Africa, most of African small trade going on in Kenya and other places like that are all going on with iPhones. Not iPhones, but you know what I mean, smartphones and telephones, where they go to the phone company, they put a credit on their phone, and then they go to, let's say, like a flea market stall, and they buy what they're going to buy, and they do the exchange through the telephone. Okay? So we've heard about this. This is nothing new in North America. They're talking about doing this to our vending machines, you know, especially in the universities and stuff. They want to be able to have the kids so they can just, you know, scan their phone and they buy their pop, right? Soft drinks. That's one way. The other way is with a national ID card that will be biometric. Okay, they're already trying this out in Saudi Arabia from what I understand right now. This will be linked to your bank cards, to your bank accounts. Canada, we've been doing this for a very long time. We were one of the early adapters to the bank card. Most Canadians don't pay for groceries with cash anymore. We just use what we call an Interact card. Okay, anybody that's a Canadian understands what I talk about. Matter of fact, I can go weeks without ever pulling any cash out of my pocket. Okay, because that's just the way it works. Your pensions are put directly in your bank accounts, and you use these debit cards to take the money out. Now, we're already seeing that with your, what do you call that, food stamp program in the States. I think you're going to see it more. It's to the taxman's benefit to do this because he's going to destroy the underground economy. Okay, there'll be no more paying a carpenter to come and work on your house for cash because there won't be any change of money. Okay, again, they will take the gold very high up and cash out. Then it'll be, this is what I'm seeing, what I think is going to happen. And then we're going to look at seeing what happened in Russia. When the Russian economy collapsed, they came and said, okay, bring all your rubles to us, and we'll give you so many of your new style of ruble. Okay, and you only will have a certain time frame to do that. And that's how they'll kill us. Okay? As far as Obamacare, it is I'll be honest with you, I'm glad I'm living in Canada. Okay, we have a single-payer system, but I think our system actually killed my mother-in-law a year and a half ago. So I understand there's problems with the system. Would I want a different system? I don't know. Ours are all province-run with some federal mandates as to the exchangeability of care across the country. Is there death panels? I don't think so. But then again, you know, why are you taking so long to get in to see a urologist, or why are you taking an oncologist? You know, you're waiting forever. You know,
are you saying death panels in Canada or here in the United States?
I don't think there is, but then again, the waiting lines to see a specialist, like with my mother-in-law, we knew she had some type of growth in her stomach. She had ended up with lymphoma, and it just took too damn long to get a proper diagnosis. If we had gone into the States, into a hospital, we'd had a diagnosis in 2 days. Okay, it took us months to get it. She ended up dying in an emergency care center where they don't know what a thing called neoseptus. I think that's what neopeptic septus. Anyways, what it is when you get chemotherapy, and I want your listeners to know this. When you get chemotherapy, you got to be so careful with your body temperature. You have to have a really good thermometer. Okay, buy a good digital thermometer. We lost this lady because we were not tracking her body temperature well enough. You as an EMS guy, I'm a former, fire captain up here. Okay, retired. I know what's going on. We both know what's going on. Neopeptic sepsis is called, I think it is. If you don't keep track of that body temperature, when that person's temperature spikes above 101, you got to take them to the hospital immediately. They have to immediately start antibiotics, broad-based antibiotics immediately. This did not happen with this lady. This lady was supposed to be the government paid an outrageous fortune for a special blood chemical that went into her system to allow her to take white blood cell products to help boost her immune system if she got into this problem. They didn't share the records from one hospital to another. Okay? The same company that you got running Obamacare, we had up here with a thing called eHealth, cost us billions of dollars. We never did get anything out of it. Okay? This is all known before this company was ever hired in the States. It was all known in Canada. This is what really infuriates me with this Obamacare thing. anybody that with any brains could have looked into this company and found out what idiots they are, to be honest with you. Okay, because there's been so many failures up here because of them. I covered pretty much everything I wanted to say, other than I think there's going to be a deception. I think knowing what Stan Deyo has said in his books, and I do have Holly's book too, I believe that we're going to be deceived. And I mentioned this to an unbeliever today, and I said what's going to happen is we're going to have these aliens are going to come down, and they're going to say we're going to be able to save your world, and we can wipe out all these horrible world globalists, these thieving bankers that have taken over your system, and we're going to eliminate them all for you, courtesy of us. And these people are going to rally behind this as the Messiah. And that'll be the deception. And, I don't like the world order any more than you do, but at the same time, when I said that, these people's eyes lit up. Oh, we're for that. Absolutely. Now, these are non-believers. Okay? And I can see how quickly that deception can be put on the public.
Wow.
I jammed a lot in there, right?
Well, you did. and we appreciate that, by the way. Where do you see the Vatican? I'm curious now. Where do you see the Vatican, the Pope, coming into this deception?
I read Ask the Vaticana.
Okay. Right.
It's there. Where, like, you can see that they're going to do that. They've got the observatory already there. If you listen to what Stan says and a few other people have said, these reptilian style with their shiny skin, whatever they want to call them, have taken over the various underground bases. They tricked us, man as we are now, to give them the raw materials and resources for them to make the technology so they can go fight with the in the other dimensions. I'll just leave it as that.
All right. That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, that's where I think it's going. From what I understand, Dr. Mack, who was an alien investigator, said that when anybody said, I believe in Jesus Christ, he is my Lord and he is my Savior, and I truly believe in him, these aliens were gone in a flash. Perfect.
I truly believe the visitors and boy,
watchers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I believe that they're among us. They walk among us. I've talked to enough people now to really believe that the people who are, or the entities, if you will, are those of a really corrupted lineage. I don't know how else to describe it, but when the so-called visitation, disclosure, exposure, whatever you want to call it, occurs, they're going to connect with that lineage, and it's like we're already here. These are our cousins, and it all goes back to the garden. I'll just leave it at that. But I believe
I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I just think we're going to have to. Who knows what the real truth is going to be that they're going to throw at us? But we have to be steadfast, and I believe we have to think of the Lord's gospel like children. Like he tells us to have the faith of children. Children don't question when you tell them something. That's how you can get them to believe in Santa Claus. Hopefully none of the little ones are listening. You know what I mean? Because they believe with blind faith. We have to have that same faith. We have to have faith like children. And that's what people miss. We also have to take care of what is the charge. My charge is to take care of the fatherless, to take care of the orphans, to take care of the widows, to take care of the less fortunate. For if you do anything for these, you've done it for me.
Exactly.
You know? Exactly. And I think that's what we're missing. The only other thing I might have wished to talk about was Stan seemed to miss one other thing, is that people can do long term, if they're trying to put up foodstuffs, they can, and I've researched a lot of this, they can put up as a long-term food storage by just saving the raw grains. Okay, and it can be done a lot of different ways. But you can just buy regular raw grains, put it in 5-gallon pails. You know, you can go to any donut shop or any Costco or anywhere else and, just ask them for the food-grade containers. Right. And you can store up a lot of stuff yourself very cheaply. You know, you buy the rice when it's on sale. You buy whatever, and you just get enough foodstuffs put away. I like the ready-made stuff too. It's nice, easy, very convenient to use. But at the same time, some people can't afford it. So
I'll say this. In addition, and now I'm a big fan of the food grade buckets at donut shops because they get their and even like Dairy Queen because they get their sugar components or whatever you call them in those buckets. Now sometimes they're without lids. You can buy lids on eBay. That actually lock, and they're fabulous. I bought 3 lids for, I think it was $10. I have food grade buckets, and we have our first bucket of rice that we purchased in bulk in that bucket, and the lid itself seals. It takes all the air out, and we had also on eBay we bought a packet of those. Desiccants and threw a couple of in there, and I'll tell you what, that will last a long time. So even on a budget, there are things you can do, and that's why it's very important, I think, for people to really look for these bargains. And like you said, but even if you have to pay $1 for a bucket or $2 or whatever, but you can do a lot if you're on a budget and really be very proactive. And
I think it's also, I look at it like, what do you think? If you're the elder in the family, it's your responsibility, whether you're a grandfather or whether you're a father, to make sure that you have this done. This is your responsibility. I put that same responsibility on checking the smoke detectors in the house every year, and walking around with a battery to make sure all of them are working, and the carbon monoxide detectors. I've always said that it's into the patriarch of the family to make sure all the children in the family are covered. And I think it's been the NFPA and the various fire chiefs in the United States and Canada don't seem to get that message. You put it on the patriarch of the family, and you know something? That grandmother or that grandfather or that father, they're going to make sure it gets done. Whether they got to pay for the batteries themselves and go and install them themselves.
Very well said, my friend.
We just went through this ice storm in Toronto. I truly believe it was the Lord sort of looked at us and said, you've got a drunk for a mayor and you've got a lesbian for a premier. And guess what, guys? You don't seem to want to change. There you go.
Interesting. Interesting
I
viewpoint.
Tell you, I think it is. I went 4 days with no power.
4 days without power.
I got a generator. It took 2 days to convince the wife for me to allow the generator to be hooked into the furnace.
Okay. All right. Well,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, 4 days. Were people in your area, those without generators, those unprepared, were they flocking to like schools and places like that for heat?
They opened them up. But a lot of people, there was been a big push here for, people to take out their old fireplaces and put in gas fireplaces.
Right.
And what you found is you had neighbors allowing other neighbors to come sleep in their family rooms or in their living rooms. Okay. And, everybody, or they went to kids, because not everywhere here got knocked out. Only certain areas got knocked out. Okay? The worst, I think, is I blame the people that are running the projects, which we call the government housing. For the sake of them putting a gas-fired generator on the ceiling, on the roof, and running the central boilers and all the pumps, they've got literally hundreds and hundreds of people without heat. And now you've got rapidly dropping temperatures. And I can tell you the plumbers are making a fortune now because there's so many broken pipes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And, You know what I mean? And the sprinkler systems, just look at, being a fireman, I look at the firefighter, I look at the sprinkler systems, and all these factories without heat, and all these sprinkler systems are cracking, and the fire calls are, you get the most fire calls for broken sprinklers when it thaws, when the heat comes back on, right? You don't get them when they go, because they're still cracked. You get them when it thaws. So the fire department up here was literally run off their feet, and I'll tell you, the stupid city pulled all the chainsaws off of all the rescues, because, they're too dangerous for the firefighters to use, and we can't get the trainings out, and they left very few in service in the department. I know that for a fact because it was done just before I retired. And,
let that be a lesson.
Let that be a lesson. There's so much waste up here, it's unbelievable.
My
and I
friend,
guess it's like that everywhere. You know?
We're up against the close of the program.
Anyways,
my friend, God bless you. I
God
want to
bless
thank you so much for a very great
happy New Year.
call. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Folks, that'll do it for the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on the second day of January 2014. Great final call to wrap up tonight's program. Joe, tomorrow night in the studio, despite the blizzard conditions, the Arctic conditions here.
1 to 3 with Daniel Holdings.
Tomorrow, that's right. We will be on Daniel Holdings' show tomorrow, and indeed, we will post a link. Check out HomelandSecurityUS.com for that information. I thank everyone for joining us tonight. God bless you. Thank you for your investment of time.
Till tomorrow, God bless. Stay safe. We'll see you then.